Hi folks, in today's video I'll be talking all about magic items. As game masters, we've probably all found ourselves in this situation. You planned out a really cool encounter, thought up potential ways that your players could solve the problem, and then you set the scene during the session and one of your players pulls out a magic item you had completely forgotten about, and suddenly they breeze through the encounter that you had planned to take the entire session. Look, I've done this as a player. My game master set up a locked door that was clearly supposed to be kind of solved by us figuring out some sort of puzzle. Well, I had a jar of marvelous pigments that I think that he forgot I had, and so after trying one or two things, just pulled it out, painted a hole in the door, reached my hand through, and unlocked the door, and we were past it. And look, gaining and collecting items, especially magic items, is kind of part of the game, and while I am a big advocate for leaning into whatever my players come up with as far as creative problem solving, when the existence of a magic item throws a complete wrench into my plans, that can be somewhat frustrating. So what can you do about it? Before I get too far into the video, if you're new here, hi! We make videos here all about tabletop RPGs and our other geeky interests, so make sure you're subscribed so you can catch all of our videos each week. First of all, don't give your players access to the item. Say you need your villain to be able to read the minds of the party. Don't allow them to find a ring of mind shielding. Or if they do buy one, it's just one. It's not enough for the entire party. You know, magic item shops could be sold out, or they don't offer that item. If you roll on a random treasure table and that item would pose too much of an interruption to where you want to go with the story, you can roll again, obviously before you tell the players. Just because an item might not be rare or legendary still means it may not be available in that town that your players are in, or perhaps even in your entire setting. My next suggestion is keep track of what your players have. Keep notes, whether it's keeping your own notes. If you're interested in how I keep notes, you can go check out a video about that once you're done here. Or make sure to get copies of your players' character sheets and keep an eye on what is in their inventory. And if you're using a virtual tabletop, most of these already are going to track your players' inventory. You can plop the item into that character sheet once they acquire it, and you can go check in and remind yourself, refresh what items do they have available as you're building encounters. Before we get to the rest of the advice, I want to give a huge thanks to all of our patrons, especially to Joan. If you want to support our channel, you can head on over to our Patreon page and check out the cool perks of being a patron. All right, let's get back to the video. My next piece of advice is attunement. So this is a rule that can sometimes get forgotten and overlooked by players and game masters. But most systems, there's a limited number of items that they can have on them that require attunement, or there are only, you can only have one ring or one piece of armor on that requires attunement. So if you're feeling like your party has too many items, but you still want to have the opportunity to be giving them more items, this is especially good if you're in a long-running campaign. Make sure the items that you're giving them require some kind of attunement. This also can help maybe limit what items your party is going to have available, because they're going to have to make the decision each day of what items am I attuned for, and perhaps you can kind of have a bit of a red herring of what the potential encounter is, in hopes that maybe that magic item that would speed things through that you'd rather them not use, they don't choose for that day. And if they do, then they speed through it. Again, many virtual tabletops will already track attunement for you, so that kind of helps with that issue there. Next is have the item stolen or damaged. Okay, say a player gets an item in one story arc, and you move on to another story arc, weeks, months, years later, and suddenly realize that that item could derail your entire plan. Well, you could have that item stolen or potentially damaged. Maybe the villain learns that the PC has whatever this item is that they know would hinder their plans, so they hire some thieves to go ambush them and steal that item. Or maybe it's something that's a little bit more subtle. The players are walking through a crowded marketplace and somebody bumps into them and pickpockets them and happens to take that item. And if you really feel like you need to reset kind of the items people have, and your party keeps most of their stuff in a bag of holding, you could have the bag of holding stolen. Just be aware that your party is going to be pretty pissed. Alternatively, you could find a way for the item to be damaged, whether that's in a fight or, again, somebody is hired to go and either steal or damage the item and make it unusable. So with both of these options, I really recommend that you still make rules, and when appropriate, have the players make rules. That it's not just something that blanket happens unless it really makes sense. Like if the party all takes a rest and no one stays up for a watch, that might be an opportunity for somebody to sneak in and steal it without having any rules. But you could also just, if it's a scenario of walking through the marketplace, you could make a roll, and as long as the thief rolls higher than anyone's passive perception, that's a way of making it still fair, that it's not just this happens and the players have no opportunity to prevent it. And if the party does notice, then you can have them chase after this person or deal with the fact of somebody is now trying to steal this item. And my final piece of advice is lean in. Lean into your players' creative problem solving. Did they use an item that you had forgotten about or never thought of could be used in that way? Great. It may have messed up your plan for the encounter, but I bet it resulted in a really cool moment in the game, or made that player feel really good that they came up with that cool idea, or they remembered, I have this item that we picked up months ago. And if you are really thrown, call for a break. Like if that encounter was supposed to last the entire session, take a break and figure out where you go from there. If it was just kind of the tail end of a session, maybe you end the game, that session early, so that you can figure out, okay, I can take some time at home. That was really cool. We can all hang out and discuss what that happened, and I'll come up with a plan for where to take the story now. I think ultimately the one thing that you do not want to do is punish your players for their creativity or your lack of planning. I've been a player when a GM just kind of hand waved that a magic item didn't work the way it was supposed to, just because they needed to break the item to make their story work. And that's not fun. What it does is it makes your players feel like they're not playing by the same set of rules as the game master, and that feeling just sucks, and it can create a lot of tension at the table. So how about you? Have you ever been thrown by a player's use of a magic item? Have you used any of the methods that I suggested in this video? How did they work out for you? Or did you use a different method? Love to continue the conversation down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye! Piece of armor on that requires attunement. Attunement. Attunement? Attunement.